At what age do people usually start having sex? Is there a right time for a first sexual experience? Despite the debates about first-time sex, most young people in the United States start having sex active before they turn 18. Sexual debut, first sexual experience, is called early if it happens before age 15, normative, if it occurs between ages 15 and 19, and late if it happens after the age of 19. This is based on a study done in 2012 that looked at people who took part in the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent Health. In the future, will the age at which this first sexual experience happens make a difference? In this month's issue of Developmental Psychology, there is a long-term study that talks about the risks and benefits of sexual induction when young and after they are done. Because one's first sexual experience can be so crucial in setting up normal sexual relationships and romantic relationships, it's essential to be aware of possible risks, like pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. It's been found repeatedly that adolescents who start having sex before the age of 15 are less likely to use contraception than those who start having sex later in life. Having a history of substance abuse and emotional problems also makes them more likely to have these problems now, too. Males who start early are more likely to be aggressive and do things that aren't good for them than those who start later. Late starters are more likely to be depressed than early starters, but this can change over time. As a result, men who start sex early are also more likely to feel less shame and guilt than women who start later. Both genders, however, usually see first-time sex as positive. It can be hard to figure out how early or late sexuality can affect later development when looking at research on this topic. Most studies are cross-sectional, which means they look at a group of people simultaneously. Adolescents who use drugs or alcohol are more likely to experiment with sex early, but does this make them more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol later? People also usually talk about people who start at the beginning and the problems they seem to have. But what about the normative and late start groups, which are both important? Early on, they didn't have as much money. For that matter, what about the positive things about sex with young people? Even though research on adult sexuality shows that there are a lot of psychological benefits, like stress relief, good health, and lower mortality, extending this kind of research to adolescents is often a controversial idea. Developmental Psychology has just published a new study about how first-time sex affects adolescents, whether it happens early, normal, or late. It looks at both the positive and negative aspects of sex for young people. Rachel Lynn Golden, a researcher at the University of Denver, and her team looked at the experiences of 200 10th graders, 100 males and 100 females. They made sure that their racial and ethnic distribution matched that of the United States. When they were tested 7 times, or waves, at least once a year apart, or 18 months for the later waves. The people who took the tests also filled out questionnaires about their dating history, sexual behavior, dating satisfaction, and sexual satisfaction. Participants who were already sexually active by wave 1 were asked when they made their first sexual move. To get more objective answers, the mother of each participant and a close friend named by the participant was asked to rate the participant on psychosocial competence, substance abuse, and romance. Participants who dropped out of the study before they had their first sexual experience, or were still not sexually active by wave 7, were not included in the study's analysis. Results show that people who start having sex at a young age are more likely to have internalizing symptoms, depression, withdrawal, loneliness, externalizing symptoms, aggression, antisocial behavior, substance abuse, and low self-worth. Having sex at a younger age also had positive effects, such as having more romantic appeal, having more sexual satisfaction for men, and dating satisfaction for males. For women, there doesn't seem to be a big difference in sexual and dating satisfaction between those who report having sex early, normal, or late. The advantage of a longitudinal study is that it allows researchers to follow participants to see changes that occur over the years. Even though this study found that early debut is linked to both internalizing and externalizing behavior, the differences between early, normative, and late debut adolescents largely disappeared by the time of the last wave, 5 or 6 years after high school. So, what do these results mean? Golden and her co-authors say that it's not clear whether the problems that seem to come with an early introduction to sex are caused by the sexual experience itself or by other things that might affect how young people grow up, like early substance antisocial behavior or childhood abuse. People who start having sex at a young age grow out of these problems over time. Having sex at a young age isn't always bad. People who start young tend to have less self-esteem than people who start later, but there are some trade-offs, at least for men. They have more romantic appeal if they start dating early in the 10th and 12th grades. They also say they have a better time dating and having sex. To understand why females don't show the same results as males, we need to consider what people think about female sexuality and how they feel about their sexuality. Young people who wait to have sex until they are older are more likely to be good at social skills and make good decisions about contraception or protecting themselves from disease. Sexual education programs can be more effective if they talk to young people about studies like this one and let them decide when to start having sex, rather than telling them what to do. A lot can be learned from this kind of research, even though there are limits to learning. The results still give important information about a hot-button issue in many countries and the United States. It's important for young people to know that a sexual debut can be risky and rewarding, whether early, normal, or late. This allows them to make intelligent decisions about one of their most important decisions.